My name is Iván Pérez, and I'm from Spain. I started dancing when I was 10 years old. Started with flamenco in a small school, and soon later I started at the conservatoire of my own town. And I was 16 and I couldn't anymore. I went to Madrid to study with the Alicia Alonso School, and soon there I started my studies of choreography and interpretation techniques at the University Región Carlos. And it was there when I started dancing in a small company, Ballet de Cámara de Madrid, and continued from there. When I was 19, I saw Netherlands Dance Theatre had an apprenticeship in a competition in Castellón, so I went to the competition, I got the scholarship. And 19, I was off already to Holland. And soon later, I was already traveling to the States, the UK, Germany. It was a great first professional year. And I got to know choreographers like Yuri Kilian or Ohad Naharin. And I couldn't help it to go back there after 1 year in Ite Dansa in Barcelona. Choreography came quite early, I think. I remember my father was showing me films of José el Bailarín and Pilar López, and right away I felt this connection with sort of creator, dancer, and I was really interested about that. But in the conservatoire in Alicante, they asked us to do a solo. And I was 11, I made a little solo combining elements of this previous school I was in and information I had. And they pointed that it was creative and it had something. So right away in Madrid when I was 16 and I started the studies of choreography, was doing exercises, started doing my first choreographies. When I was 19 already, I presented it in the competition of choreography in Madrid, and I was finalist. In 2003, I was already winning prizes in competitions. So right away, I felt like it was something I could do and I like to do, especially working with people, getting into a room and getting things done and get things somewhere. My style, it's always complicated to think of a style, and you never know if you're actually searching for one or not. It's not really my intent to create a style, but I have a certain sensitivity as a performer, and I think that comes across when I create. And many times it's point out the combination of physicality and emotionality. And I can help to have a certain passion for what I do, the way I live, the way I like to interact with people, the way I try to find a certain truth, but at the same time connect from a physical level. So I like to use improvisation a lot and allow the performers to go beyond technique and find their own organic movement and find a new presence and sort of renovated expression. So I think that might be the point, the place to look at when you see my work, to try to go beyond the choreography and try to look at the performer's eyes and see what is actually the performer connecting to when they're dancing. The BalletBoyz. It was 2013, 2 years ago, and they invited me to see their show at Sales Wells, teach a class with the dancers, see how the connection could work. And right away, we had fun in the first class. I enjoyed the talent and also sort of the bravery of the dancers. And we got together 2 weeks to do our research, to see what was the potential. And in 2 weeks, I kind of made already a sort of half an hour put together of explorations, and it seemed that it had a lot of potential, and I think Michael and Billy didn't doubt a minute to stretch that process. For young men, I started being attracted to ideas of hazards like tsunamis, strange events that happen that are stronger than us. I like to question human life and how we are actually, in a way, vulnerable to forces external to us. Within this process, I connected to man-made hazards, and war is a major force. And combining with the commemorations of the First World War and the fact that I didn't have so much information about it, it made me curious. And also having an all-male dance company like the BalletBoyz and having all these dancers in this sort of age frame where these soldiers could be like, I felt it was the perfect ground to explore something like this. And soon in the research I realized that I didn't want to go into a sort of political statement or kind of placing our position of what do we think about war and what are the sort of reasonings or consequences, and more what is actually the experience of these soldiers, what do they go through, and how might be their emotional affection or their psychological traumas. Bradley was from the beginning when I came. He was actually an apprentice. He just arrived to the company, fresh energy, committed dancer, willing to develop, willing to go into a project like this. And we connected in another level as well through conversations. I felt like he was interested in theater, he was interested in literature, in other things beyond just being a dancer. And as I was creating the project, each of the dancers were kind of finding their own place as I was using their natural characteristics. And Bradley right away became the strong fighter, the believer, and the one that would sweat the most. And he grew into a position where he's the one that stays stronger, and he's developed a lot through this process as well. Matt Reese is a very special performer because he always gave me the feeling that he was not a professional dancer, and it always seemed a little interesting because you never knew if it was intentional, this approach he had to dance. And he really struck me when we were working on theatrical ideas, and even when the ideas are more dancey, he would always bring it to a place where he's connected to the action, he's connected to why he's doing it, and connected also to the response of the physicality, how as he's dancing, his emotions change because of the tiredness, because of the response to his own body, to the movements. So I think he's also one of those brave performers that is not afraid to hug you, to hit you, to look at you in the eye. And this work needs that kind of presence and that kind of power. The music for the work was composed by Keaton Henson. Right away when I met him the first time, I felt he was a sort of romantic rebel. And I really liked that energy, and that he was also referring to Arvo Pärt, referring to other composers that he was looking up to, and he was willing to search in himself what is that beauty that he could bring, what is that emotion. And I like a lot how he was observing, how he was taking the time to be in the studio with us and to not rush, to let melodies emerge, to let ideas emerge, and to push himself. It was really exciting to work with him. Dance on screen, it's interesting because any movement on screen can be dance. I think that an object can dance on screen. The camera is dancing as the camera moves. The interesting thing with that is that not much needs to happen for it to communicate. So what I'm interested in bringing young men into film is the collaboration with Michael and Billy, their vision, what do they see from the choreography, what do they focus on. I think the camera can give us a sort of bigger look, and right away we can be in the detail. And I think my choreography works a lot with detail as well. So I think it could be very interesting to direct the attention of the spectator, to not let them see certain things, but also allow them to see a small touch or a small look. There is a difference from performing on stage and performing in front of a camera, for sure. The camera, I think, is such a strong filter, and the danger of performing like you would on stage, it's kind of overpowering the meaning of each little action, and you have to allow the spectator to enter and to sort of unfold the meanings and not give them to them. And I think this is going to be the challenge of the performers, to realize that naturality and that spontaneity that they need to have. We're talking about that, we're being careful to don't represent, but to be. I hope the audience will get from this film an energy, sensitivity, sort of at the time to delve into this subject and to have one more approach, one more proposal of what some people like us, like the team that is making it, think about this subject and how it's making us feel, and what are we trying to sort of point at, and it's still an attempt. The only thing we can do is to attempt to touch this subject. It's definitely bigger than us, and I think it's also bigger than the spectator, but at the same time we're all given some time in our lives to look at it instead of ignore it, and I think that already gives it the value.
Good. Cut. Thank you.
No problem.
That was really nice.
Whew, this is work.